The coffee maker let out its last steamy sigh, flooding the small apartment with the deep, sharp aroma of strong black brew. I poured the shot into the pair of mugs my brother had gifted us on our second anniversary. Hers and hers, they said in playful script. A gag that had kept Chloe giggling for days back then. Now the punchline felt aimed straight at me. I carried both mugs toward the bedroom, where the main act was already in progress. Chloe stood before the tall mirror, studying herself like an art critic judging a final piece. She held up two options, a classic black dress and a bold crimson one I'd never laid eyes on. The black is reliable. Sophisticated, she murmured to her reflection. But the crimson, it makes a statement. What kind of statement? I asked, handing her one of the mugs. She accepted it without turning, still fixed on her own image. It says I'm not even trying, yet I still turn heads. I took a sip of my coffee. The warmth anchored me while my fingers suddenly felt icy. We were headed to our friend Liam's birthday gathering, a relaxed backyard barbecue. I had thrown on dark jeans and a plain button-up. Chloe looked ready for a red carpet event. You know how Liam's parties go, I said. Burgers on the grill, cheap beer, maybe some cornhole. You might be a little overdressed for Flip Cup champions. She finally faced me, a flash of irritation in her perfectly winged eyes. It's not really about the party, Alex. It's about how I show up. I should have caught the warning then. I should have felt the change in the atmosphere, the deliberate energy she was building. But after 3 years together, you grow accustomed to your partner's small quirks. I chalked it up to Chloe simply being Chloe. It was while she added another layer of mascara, her strokes quick and exact, that she finally spoke again. Her tone was light, like she was reminding me to grab the recycling. So, I just saw on Instagram, Jake's going to be there tonight. The name hit the room like a brick. Jake, her ex from before me. The brilliant musician whose endless red flags she'd listed for me countless times, usually to highlight how steady and dependable I was by comparison. I froze, halfway through buckling my watch. Okay, I thought you called him a self-absorbed disaster who couldn't commit to a streaming service, never mind a relationship. She flicked her wrist, brushing away years of her own complaints. He is. That's not the issue. She met my gaze in the mirror, her expression practical and cool. The issue is I don't want things to feel awkward. So tonight, just pretend we're only friends. The sentence didn't register at first. It was so ridiculous, so disrespectful, that my mind refused to process it. Everything went quiet. The traffic noise outside our window disappeared, replaced by a ringing stillness in my head. Only friends. Pretend the 3 years of shared life, the trips, the quiet weekends, the nights I comforted her through work stress, the future we'd talked about endlessly, had never happened. Pretend the engagement ring I'd been quietly researching was imaginary. Pretend I was just some acquaintance. I turned to face her fully. She was still watching me through the mirror, waiting for my agreement. Only friends, I echoed, my tone empty. It wasn't really a question, just testing how the words tasted, bitter and wrong. Yeah, she said, returning to the mirror to swipe on a striking red lipstick, completing her battle-ready look. It'll keep things cleaner. You get it, right? She pressed her lips together on a tissue. Don't act needy. Needy. The word was genius-level manipulation. It turned any hurt or pushback from me into a personal defect. It made her demand seem sensible and my natural response seem weak. I studied her, really studied the woman I'd loved. For the first time, I saw her clearly, without the warm filter of habit. This wasn't about avoiding awkwardness. This was calculated. I was scenery in her scheme to spark jealousy in Jake, to parade the reliable, attractive guy she'd moved on to, while making sure I stayed quiet enough not to interrupt whatever lingering pull still existed between them. Anger flared, hot and sudden, but it was quickly buried under an icy, absolute clarity. Arguing would be useless. It would prove I was needy. It would mean playing a game I never signed up for, by rules I rejected. The urge to fight left me, replaced by a calm, complete distance. I finished with my watch. I looked at my reflection behind hers in the mirror. Our eyes locked in the glass. Okay, I said. Simple. Final. It wasn't surrender. It was the quiet closing of a chapter. She flashed a quick, triumphant smile. Perfect. I knew you'd understand. She twirled, planted a fast, careful peck on my cheek, mindful of her lipstick, and grabbed the crimson dress. You're amazing, Alex. She disappeared into the bathroom to change, already humming some song I didn't know. I stayed in the bedroom alone. I drained my now-cold coffee. I stared at the two mugs on the dresser, hers and hers. I picked up hers, walked to the kitchen, and dumped its contents down the drain. The doorbell rang. That would be Maya, Chloe's closest friend, here to carpool with us. The witness. I moved to the door on autopilot, my thoughts already at the party, already performing the role of just friend, and already mapping my way out of a part one never auditioned for. The party was loud and chaotic. Bodies moved under the low lights of Liam's finished basement, a blur of exaggerated laughs and shouted talks over a thumping bass that felt like an extra pulse. I lingered near the makeshift bar, a folding table covered in bottles and soggy ice, holding a beer I didn't plan to finish. I felt like a spectator, and oddly, it was freeing. My job was easy. Show up, stay polite, act friendly. So I did. I'd wished Liam happy birthday, made small talk with a few mutual friends about nothing important, and now I was watching the star of the show. The star was Chloe. She glowed in that crimson dress, and Jake was the target she was trying to draw into her orbit. I observed from across the room. She'd accidentally bump near him, laugh a bit too brightly at nearby jokes, tilt her head in that practiced way that highlighted her collarbone. She was staging a solo performance titled I'm Thriving and Single, while Jake barely noticed. He offered polite, distant smiles, nodded, then returned to his circle, one guy with a guitar practically worshiping him. He wasn't biting. He wasn't even playing. A small, frozen part of me, the part that locked into place when I said, okay, felt a quiet satisfaction. Her whole plan, the dress, the makeup, the casual humiliation of her actual boyfriend, was crashing spectacularly. You look like you're having the time of your life, came a warm voice beside me, tinged with gentle sarcasm. I turned to find Maya propped against the table, red cup in hand. She was Chloe's best friend, but always felt different, kinder, more observant. She saw things Chloe missed. I gave her a faint smile. This might actually beat a tax audit. What's going on? She asked, her forehead creasing with real worry. You've been glued to this cooler like it's paying you. I sipped my untouched beer slowly. The protective numbness held. Nothing's wrong, I said evenly. Just honoring some boundaries. Chloe and I are only friends tonight. Maya's easy manner vanished instantly. She stared, searching my face for sarcasm, pain, anything. Finding only steady resignation, her expression changed, recognition. Then a brief flare of anger she quickly hid, replaced by something close to respect. About time, she said quietly but firmly. I blinked. What? It's about time, she repeated, stepping closer so the music wouldn't drown her out. You deserve more than being her backup plan, Alex. You deserve someone who doesn't treat you like an accessory or a safety net. It was as if she'd named the heavy thing that had been forming inside me since that afternoon. Backup plan. Safety net. Perfect, painful labels for the role I'd accepted too long. The validation wasn't soothing, it was energizing. Someone from Chloe's own circle saw it clearly. She told me it would keep things cleaner, I said, almost to myself. Maya gave a short, sharp laugh. Cleaner for her. She wanted permission to chase Jake without feeling bad about having a boyfriend watching. She used you as cover. We stood quietly for a moment, watching the last act of Chloe's show. She had finally cornered Jake near the stairs. We saw her touch his arm. We saw him gently remove it, say something brief, and walk away, leaving her alone, the bold crimson suddenly looking lonely and out of place. The illusion shattered. The plan failed completely. I turned away from the scene and gave Maya my full attention. So how's everything with you? Anything new outside this circus? She smiled, a genuine, relieved smile. Work's insane. I'm considering getting a dog, but I worry I'll become the cliché. We started talking. Truly talking. Not party small talk, but the deep, easy conversation that happens when you realize the person opposite you actually sees you. We covered terrible managers, childhood ambitions, favorite novels, the quiet panic of adult life. We laughed, real laughs. I realized I hadn't laughed like that in ages. Hours disappeared. The crowd thinned. At some point, I noticed Chloe alone on a couch, staring at her phone, looking defeated. I felt nothing. She had become background. Maya checked her phone. I think I'm ready to head out. Was going to grab an Uber. I'll drive you, I said immediately. Staying longer felt impossible. Her leaving felt worse. Yeah, she said, eyes steady on mine. I'd like that. We didn't say goodbye to anyone. We just slipped out into the cool night air, a welcome relief after the stuffy basement. The walk to my car was quiet, but the silence felt full, alive with fresh understanding. As I pulled away, my headlights briefly lit the front porch. There stood Chloe, clearly having just stepped outside searching for us. Her face was pale, eyes wide with shock and the slow, awful realization. She saw me driving. She saw Maya beside me. She saw us leaving together. Our eyes met for an instant in the rearview mirror. I didn't slow. I didn't acknowledge her. I just drove, leaving her alone under the porch light as the full consequences of her cleaner plan finally landed. Morning sunlight poured into the apartment, bright and cleansing, washing away the lingering haze of the night before. The quiet felt explosive, no tension, no pretense, no careful steps around fragile moods. Just calm. I was at the stove scrambling eggs. Maya sat at the kitchen counter, hands around a fresh mug of coffee. She still wore my old, oversized band tee, faded black with a long band logo. On her, it looked like it belonged. We weren't saying much, just sharing the peaceful space. The late-night connection from the drive home had deepened into something real and steady. We'd talked until nearly dawn, about everything and nothing, and when she dozed off on the couch, I'd draped a blanket over her and felt a protectiveness I hadn't experienced in years. The doorbell shattered the stillness. Maya and I shared one knowing glance. No doubt who it was. The outside world we'd walked away from was demanding reentry. The bell rang again, followed by urgent pounding. Not polite, but the frantic knocks of someone convinced their crisis was everyone else's responsibility. I turned off the burner. A strange calm settled over me. This wasn't a fight. It was paperwork, finalizing the end. You don't have to open it, Maya said gently, though her eyes said she knew I would. For closure. To place the last period. It's fine, I said. I walked over and opened the door. Chloe stood there, a mess. Yesterday's carefully crafted beauty was now ruined. Eyes swollen, makeup streaked, hair wild, crimson dress creased and tired. She looked like she'd cried all night. She probably had. Alex, thank God, she rasped, voice hoarse. She tried to step inside, but I stayed in the doorway. It was awful. A total disaster. Jake, he's seeing someone. He barely acknowledged me. He looked past me like I didn't exist. I was so embarrassed. She was lost in her own narrative, still performing victimhood for an audience she assumed would care. She hadn't yet registered the full picture. She stopped. Her red-rimmed eyes finally moved past me and landed on Maya, who had quietly come to stand nearby, a calm presence. Chloe's mouth fell open. Tears halted, replaced by stunned silence. Maya, she whispered, voice cracking. What are you doing here? Her gaze traveled downward, Maya's bare legs, the comfortable way she stood in my home, and finally the shirt that shattered everything. Why are you wearing his shirt? Maya didn't waver. She took a slow sip of coffee, eyes locked on the woman who used to be her closest friend. He wasn't interested, huh? Maya said, voice low and steady. Funny how that feels. The words hit like cold water. Chloe's shock fractured, giving way to raw fury. Her face twisted, the polished mask finally gone, revealing something harsh underneath. You did this, she screamed, pointing first at me, then Maya. Her voice carried down the hall. You planned this to hurt me. You slept with my best friend. How could you, Maya? He's my boyfriend. The hypocrisy was staggering, almost artistic in its scope. I didn't feel rage. I felt detached curiosity. When I spoke, my voice was even, almost bureaucratic. You asked me to pretend we were just friends. I followed instructions. She stared, mouth working soundlessly. And as of last night, I continued, that's exactly what we are. Looks like you were the last to realize. You don't mean it, she wailed, anger dissolving into frantic tears. You're just upset. We can work this out. I messed up, Alex. I was foolish. She was pleading now, not really for me, but for the comfort and security she'd torched chasing a ghost. Maya spoke again, softer but immovable. There's nothing left to work out, Chloe. You destroyed it. He's simply not interested in your leftover fragments anymore. Using her full name was the final cut. No longer friends, just strangers. Chloe looked from Maya's resolute expression to my calm one. She saw us together, a solid unit. She saw the eggs cooling, the 2 coffee mugs, The quiet morning routine she'd thrown away for an illusion. The full weight of consequence finally crushed her. Whatever control remained vanished. "You think you're better now?" she hissed, venom dripping. "You're a backstabber, and he's a dull, predictable nobody. You two deserve each other." I didn't smile. I didn't react. I just regarded this stranger raging on my doorstep. "Take care, Chloe," I said, and closed the door. The soft click of the lock sounded final. The end of one story. The start of another. I turned back. Maya stood there, watching me with quiet understanding. The muffled shouting faded, replaced by stumbling footsteps retreating down the hall. "You good?" she asked. I looked at her. In my kitchen, in my shirt, in my life now. The morning peace returned, richer than before. "Yeah," I said, and for the first time in forever, I fully meant it. "I am." I walked back to the stove, flipped the burner on again, and finished the eggs. The past was gone. The future was already here, sipping coffee across from me and looking at me like I was everything that mattered.